With the biggest story of the day, and that is the news that DeWanna Bonner is no longer with the Indiana Fever. It was reported last night that DeWanna Bonner had no intentions on returning to the Indiana Fever, and then the news broke today that the Indiana Fever had indeed.
We are seeing one of the most satisfying instances of instant karma in WNBA history right now. DeWanna Bonner believed she could simply leave the Indiana Fever and waltz with any team she wanted, but reality hit her like a freight train. Teams all over the WNBA are refusing to touch her with a 10-foot pole after witnessing her abandon her teammates mid-season. Do you think DeWanna Bonner deserves to be blacklisted by other teams after what she did? In some way, she assumed that teams would be lining up to sign her, but guess what? Reality just handed her a cold plate of consequences, and it's lovely to watch.
Statement. She said, "I want to sincerely thank the Indiana Fever for the opportunity to be part of the Fever franchise. Despite our shared goals and excitement heading into the season, I felt the fit did not work out, and I appreciate the organization's willingness to grant my request to move on, particularly at this point in my career. I wish the Fever great success as they continue to build around this dynamic group of young players."
The Fever have waived her, so any team in the league may claim her off waivers and she would receive her entire salary, all $200,000 of it, making the entire scenario even more embarrassing for Bonner.
If another team claims her off the waivers, she gets her full salary. She gets her full salary if another team claims her off the waivers.
You would expect that organizations would be interested in a seasoned player with championship experience, given the WNBA's high salary.
I think that makes DeWanna Bonner look really, really bad. It makes DB look really, really bad. And it's the fact that she has told all other teams, other than the Mercury, don't sign her.
Bonner is allegedly telling all of the league's teams, aside from the Phoenix Mercury, not to even try to sign her. She's essentially pretending to be a free agent who can choose where she goes, but in really, she's damaged goods that nobody wants, and she's pulling a Ben Simmons is ignoring the fact that she is under contract by refusing to play for more than one organization. This woman's complete insolence is astounding. She signs with Indiana, steals their money, and enjoys all the perks of being linked to the most significant story in women's basketball. She poses for Sports Illustrated, covers games in front of sold-out audiences, and then when things don't work out the way she wants them to, she quits and now believes she can tell the league what she wants to play next.
And look, I understand that's where she wants to go. Why didn't she go there in the summer? We know why, because she couldn't have got her max contract. And by the way, people are like, oh, they can give her the minimum. No, they can't. The Phoenix Mercury can give her a prorated $80,000 salary for the rest of the year. So she's only going to lose about 30K-ish. And she's going to lose about 40, 50K. Whereas they would have been only able to sign her earlier on. Well, they would only be able to sign her for nothing. Because again, we can't forget as well, the Phoenix Mercury cut Sevgi Uzun. The Phoenix Mercury have a bunch of players signed on hardships and a bunch of players that they can cut. Like they literally cap space magicked up. And as soon as cap space magics up for the Indiana or for the Phoenix Mercury.
It's embarrassing for Bonner, though, because the Phoenix Mercury, the team she truly wants to join, is reportedly unsure if they still want her. For a brief moment, she strained relations with Indiana in order to get to Phoenix, and now Phoenix is asking itself, do we really want someone who quits on their team when things get tough? Right now, the Mercury are having success with their core group of youthful role players who have purchased. Why would they want to ruin that camaraderie for someone who only serves to demonstrate her unreliability when they are winning games with people who genuinely want to be there and won't leave the squad the second something doesn't go their way? Let's discuss this catastrophe's commercial aspects. She would have received her entire $200,000 salary if Bonner had been picked off waivers by another team, but since she is insisting on only going to Phoenix, she is likely to sign for a prorated veteran minimum of about $80,000. Thus, she is essentially costing herself more than $100,000 because she believes she can decide where she plays after leaving her team. The fact that all other teams in the league are avoiding her tells you everything you need to know about how the league is viewing this situation. Coaches and general managers are examining what Bonner did and wondering if she will leave Indiana when they need her the most. What would stop her from leaving us? That's not the kind of reputation you want in a league with only 144 roster spots. The entire situation paints Bonner as being incredibly self-centered and short-sighted. If she truly wanted to play for Phoenix so badly, why didn't she just sign with them? First of all, during free agency, everyone knew the Mercury were interested in her and that she was in a relationship with Alyssa Thomas. Everyone knew that was where she wanted to be, but she chose the money and attention that came with signing in Indiana instead. Now, she's trying to have it both ways, taking Indiana's money and exposure and forcing her way to Phoenix whenever it's convenient for her. That's not how professional sports operate, and it's definitely not how you gain the trust of teammates and organizations. The worst part is how this impacts Caitlin Clark, and the other young players on the Fever looked up to Bonner as a seasoned leader who would have helped them deal with the pressure of playing for the most criticized team in the league. Instead, she demonstrated to them that when times get hard, you can just give up and walk away. That's not leadership, that's abandonment. For one of the first times in Clark's career, she was essentially informed by someone she looked up to that they didn't want to play with her. That must have hurt, and it likely explains some of Clark's recent behavior. Clark was especially excited about playing with Bonner, as evidenced by the amount of work he put into developing a rapport with her. Battles on the court, the Jimmy Butler comparisons are ideal since Butler's actions in Philadelphia were widely viewed as unprofessional and detrimental to the team culture. However, Butler was still a top player when he forced his way out, and although she is 36 years old and obviously declining, she is acting as though she has the power of a superstar. Simmons is also a perfect comparison because he also sat out and demanded a trade while still under contract, but Simmons was younger and, in theory, had greater value. As her career draws to a close, Bonner recently demonstrated to all of the league's teams her willingness to retire. The fact that Bonner is telling teams not to claim her off waivers shows how entitled she has become. She believes she can control the entire process, dictate terms to the league, and force her way to exactly where she wants to go without any consequences. But the consequences are here, and they're not pretty teams around the league. This makes it even more absurd when things don't go her way. Her complaints about her role in Indiana seemed completely overblown. She was a starter, receiving significant minutes, and being featured in the offense. Essentially treating Bonner as though she currently has the plague. No general manager wants to be the one to bring in a player who simply indicates that she will leave her team when things get tough. This is toxic to the team culture and sends a terrible message to other players on the roster. The Mercury's hesitancy is especially telling because they are the team she truly wants to join. If they are even reconsidering bringing in someone who forced their way out of their previous situation, that tells you how bad this looks from the outside. They are in a good place right now with their current roster structure. They have young players who are contributing and buying into their system. So, why would they want to possibly upset that for a 36-year-old who recently left her previous team? The financial aspect of this makes it even more embarrassing for Bonner, who will lose a lot of money as a result of her decision to force her way out rather than honor her contract and receive her full salary. She will likely only make half of what she was expected to make this season, and the timing of her departure only makes it worse. The media's unwillingness to criticize Bonner for this decision is also frustrating, but predictable. The NBA media tends to defend players even when they make blatantly bad decisions, but fans don't buy it. They can see this situation for what it is, which is a veteran player selfishly abandoning her team, and the precedent this sets is terrible for the team. Bonner chose to increase chaos and drama when Caitlin Clark was recovering from injury, just when the team needed veteran leadership the most. Rather than stepping up and helping the team through a difficult time, League of players can simply leave during the season and force their way to their desired destination with no real repercussions. Why would anyone honor their contracts? Why would teams spend money creating culture and chemistry? Bonner's legacy will be permanently tarnished by this choice. Rather than being remembered as a reliable veteran who helped several teams during her career, she will be remembered as the player who left Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever when they most needed her. She is essentially holding out for one team while under contract, which demonstrates a total lack of professionalism. She is behaving as though she is greater than the league, bigger than contracts, and bigger than obligations. This is not how professional sports operate, and it is most definitely not how you uphold respect within the game. It is also telling that other seasoned players are remaining silent. Teams are likely worried about the message signing Bonner would send to their current players if you reward someone for leaving their team. What does that tell your own players about commitment? Usually, when a player is treated unfairly by an organization, other players speak up in support of her decision. The fact that no one is defending Bonner's decision tells you how it's being viewed by her peers and professionalism. It's a terrible precedent to set. In addition, the Mercury would have to cut another player to make room for Bonner, which would mean altering their current roster structure for someone who has just shown herself to be unreliable. Given Bonner's age and declining output, that's a lot of risk for very little reward. This entire circumstance serves as a masterclass in how to avoid dealing with dissatisfaction with your work environment rather than resolving issues. Corresponding with management and coaches, or just keeping your end of the bargain since Bonner decided to go nuclear and destroyed everything, the karma of the circumstance is nearly too ideal. Bonner believed she might use the system to achieve her goals, but instead she's learning that her actions have repercussions. Teams don't want players to go, coaches don't want players to desert their teammates, and general managers don't want to spend money on someone who might leave when times become hard. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be close to your partner, but don't lie about it or neglect your professional obligations to make it happen. What's really pitiful is how Bonner is attempting to frame this as a basketball decision when everyone can see it's really about her wanting to play with her girlfriend, Alyssa Thomas, in Phoenix. The fact that she was willing to sit out and lose money in order to force her way to Phoenix shows how little she actually cares about basketball at this point. If she truly loved the game and wanted to compete, she would have honored her contract and tried to make things work in Indiana, but instead she's choosing personal desires over professional obligations. It's suspicious as hell that she waited until Phoenix had cap space available before abruptly deciding she couldn't play for Indiana any longer. It's almost like this was planned from the start. Teams are most likely worried about the precedent as well. For other players, this sets the WNBA cannot afford to have players treat contracts like suggestions if Bonner is rewarded for this behavior by being allowed to move wherever she wants. This might lead to a cascade of players quitting their teams anytime they are dissatisfied. Supporters of Bonner are attempting to portray this as her defending herself and making a business decision, but that is utter bullshit. The league is still establishing its credibility and reputation, and having seasoned players leave in the middle of the season sends a terrible message about the professionalism and stability of the organization. A business choice would be to uphold your agreement, operate professionally, and control your problems. You've totally miscalculated the situation when the team you're trying to force your way onto doesn't even want you anymore. In private, this is the opposite of a business decision. It's an emotional outburst that will cost her money and reputation. The fact that even Phoenix seems hesitant to sign her tells you how toxic this situation has become. The irony is that if Bonner had been patient and professional players had always moved around the league through trades and free agency, she probably would have ended up in Phoenix anyhow. Instead, she went with the nuclear option, which could have damaged relationships with everyone. This is also a terrible situation for the Indiana Fever, organization that spent a lot of money and resources on Bonner and created marketing campaigns around her, and now they appear dumb for putting their trust in someone who left them at the first indication of trouble. This makes it more difficult for them to draw in other experienced free agents. Instead of witnessing how a seasoned player responds to hardship with professionalism and grace, the younger players on the Fever roster are likely to look at this scenario in the future and learn all the wrong lessons. They are witnessing someone cut and run when things get difficult, which is not the type of mentorship they need. Despite being decades younger and far more experienced than Bonner, Caitlin Clark has handled this issue with more poise and composure. Last season, the business implications for Bonner will go beyond this season as well. Future teams will remember how she handled this situation when they're considering whether to sign her. Why would you invest in someone who might just quit on you when things don't go your way? The fact that Bonner believed she could control the entire process and dictate terms to the league shows how out of touch she's become. The WNBA isn't her personal playground where she gets to make demands and have everyone cater to her wishes, because she's still showing up, playing hard, and trying to lead her team despite being dumped by someone she looked up to. Learning the hard way that decisions have repercussions. In reality, Bonner learned a harsh lesson about consequences and reputation. Sometimes karma works exactly as it should. What do you think about teams avoiding Bonner? Share your thoughts below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more WNBA drama. Bonner truly believed she could leave her team and still have the entire league vying to sign her.